Hey, Corey, just checking. Are you able to hear me? Testing 1, 2. Corey, are you able to hear me?
Sorry, Tyler, I had trouble hearing you.
Are you able to hear me now, though?
Yes, that's better.
All right, perfect. I know Sarah is getting connected as well, and I had a little trouble with the audio, so I just wanted to make sure we could get connected and audio up and running.
Yeah, you on my end, you're a little quiet. I'm not sure if anyone else is experiencing that.
Is that better?
Yep, Corey, I agree. I can hear you really well.
Okay, so that's better. I was able to turn the volume up on my mic. No.
No, I can hear Corey really well.
But not me. Interesting. That's where I always have. It's when you drop between platforms, sometimes you get some unique differences. I'll just make sure to speak up. All right, well, I'm going to go back on mute while we wait to get this started. Good morning, Chad. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Tyler?
Doing well. I just wanted to test the audio. I was having some issues earlier, so just wanted to make sure we're all set.
Got you loud and clear.
Perfect. All right. Well, I have 10 o'clock on my end. We'll go ahead and get started. So traditionally, I'm the one that will be leading these sessions, but today, since we have such a great guest, and the whole goal of this series is for you guys as IHEN members, early careerist members, to get to know our board better and to get to know our team as the early career steering team better. I'm actually going to hand the reins over to one of the steering team members, Sarah, who is a clinical advisor for IU Health with the clinical effectiveness team. She recently completed her MBA through Indiana Wesleyan and has been with IU Health for a little over 12 years with many different roles across the system, from bedside nurse to an NP with developmental peds at Riley, where she ran a spina bifida program for the state across Indiana, and house supervisor. So she's recently joined us on the IHEN steering team and has great experience, and I think she will do a wonderful job leading today. So you're in great hands with Sarah, and our esteemed guest today is Chad Dilley, who is FACHE and serves as the Chief Operating Officer at IU Health Saxony and Fishers, Indiana. In his role, he leads the daily operations, strategic projects, and community relationships in this thriving and rapidly developing northeast suburb of Indianapolis. Prior to his current role as the COO, he served as the administrative director of the Joe and Shelley Schwartz Cancer Center at IU Health North in Carmel, where he led the $55 million development and activation of that center. Now, with both of these individuals here on the phone, I could keep going on, but you really didn't join to listen to me give you bios all day long. So with that said, I'm going to go on mute. I'm going to let Sarah take over and lead today's conversation. Thank you guys for joining.
Tyler, thank you for the very kind introduction. Chad, it's nice to see you. Thank you for joining today. I've had the privilege of working with Chad in my multiple roles, so excited to talk today. But Chad, why don't you start by telling us about yourself and your involvement in IHEN?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tyler, appreciate the intro, and Sarah, good to see you again. Appreciate the kind words there. Yeah. So, boy, where do I start? I'm actually a native of Illinois. I'm not a native Hoosier. I grew up in East Central Illinois, just in a real small town outside of Champaign, Illinois, called St. Joseph, Illinois. And as I went throughout my journey, I ended up playing baseball in college at a school called Olivet Nazarene University. It's about an hour south of Chicago. And I did my undergraduate degree there and also did my MBA there, served as a graduate assistant at Olivet. And then I got my first taste of healthcare leadership at a facility called Riverside Medical Center. It's in the Kankakee area, also about an hour south of Chicago. And, as I navigated through life and just started to understand a little bit more about myself, I thought that I was okay with business and okay with people. And I could see just kind of naturally, showing up to an economics class, and that came a lot more natural for me than a chemistry class would. And so I'm kind of looking at my natural skills there and understanding that. I also think that I've had some, kind of other influences on my life. So I grew up the son of a career firefighter. So my father, I saw him leave for work every third day to go serve his community. And I saw the passion and just overall satisfaction he had with his role of serving others. And so as I kind of went through college, I tried to understand how do I have like an altruistic view, an altruistic approach to work that also leverages my skill sets. And it took me a couple years to kind of figure out where that process could land, and it landed in with healthcare leadership. So that's really how I got into healthcare leadership, was just kind of understanding what my natural gifts, abilities, and desires were, and how do you kind of serve the community with those skill sets. I've been in Indiana now for about 8 or 9 years, been with IU Health for about 6 or 7 years here, and served in a variety of roles within IU Health. I started with inside the Division of General Surgery with IU Health Physicians. It's the largest surgical specialty that IU Health Physician has. I had about 60 surgeons, about 10 different clinics across the metropolitan area, and really a great group of very dedicated professionals there. And then about three and a half years into that, we're developing a cancer center there at North, and I ended up being selected for that role, and that was just kind of a transformation there for my career, and have an opportunity to lead that work and serve that team was just an honor of a career. And the project went very well, and it's really helped transform cancer care on the north side there, and just feel honored to be a part of that team that's able to impact those patients. And then about the time that project wrapped up and we opened, I transitioned over here to Saxony as a chief operating officer. So that's really kind of been my journey. Started out on the hospital side, went to the physician group side, and now back to the hospital side there.
Great. Let's see, you shared some fun facts about yourself. Any other fun facts that you can share?
Sure. It's interesting. Everybody has a different career journey, and it's always interesting to hear somebody's life story. And I see a couple folks on the phone here where I've had kind of this conversation. I am a first generation college graduate, and I'm always intrigued to meet others that are first generation college graduates. my whole family are full of public servants, but not college graduates at all. So I think that that's kind of a unique fact about me. And obviously, huge baseball fan. I'm a huge baseball fan. I played through college and still love to follow it. And if there are any Cubs fans out there, I will typically talk a lot of trash because I'm a big Cardinals fan. Although neither Cubs fans or Cardinals fans have any thing to brag about this year. And I see Joe Primavera talking about the Red Sox. I don't even know what city the Red Sox play in, Joe. So just joking with you. It's they got a great tradition out there in Boston. But I love baseball, so that's a little bit about me.
Since you love baseball so much, there is the upcoming baseball game at the Indians.
Yeah.
Tyler, that's this weekend, correct?
We actually had it last Friday.
Sorry.
So it was a great time. See a lot of folks on the phone here that were out there, and it was just a great social interaction. And I really would just recommend anybody take advantage of those opportunities. A good time to meet and greet folks and listen to other career journeys, and particularly early careerists. That's where I really found some value in ACHE and IHIN overall. Is just meeting people and understanding what their journeys are, where they come from, how they navigated it. I think there were some things I would have probably done differently earlier on in my career. Now that I've learned a little bit, and I think one of those is just kind of not getting caught up in someone else's journey. I think it's always interesting to learn someone else's journey. But you have to know that you're on your own journey, and you can't just duplicate somebody else's journey. There are different roles that pop up within organizations, different roles that go away within organizations, and you can't get so focused on how someone else has navigated their career that you have to duplicate that. My recommendation when it comes to a career journey, you got to understand what you like to do and what you're good at, and then most importantly, what your organization needs, because you can be good at something and like to do something, but if your organization doesn't need it, it's not going to happen for you. And so if you focus in on what you like to do and what you're good at, that's where you're really going to find some job satisfaction. I've met some folks, that are great accountants, but may not necessarily like accounting, and the organization needs it, but they don't find themselves fulfilled because they don't like to do accounting every day. And that's just, one example with that. But as you're going throughout your career, I think it's healthy to look at other folks and how they've navigated their careers, but you can't get caught up and say, well, I'm going to do exactly the way that they did it. And it's just, career development is not linear at all. And I think oftentimes early careerists will look at a leader in an executive position and look at that path and say, well, I'm going to do exactly what they did. And it's just more dynamic. It's not as linear. It's just way more dynamic than what you would anticipate.
I think that's some great insight. Definitely a thing to think about. I think a lot of us get caught up in that, seeing what other people are doing.
Yep.
Can you tell us about a time that has shaped you professionally?
Yeah, I think there's what I consider just kind of a moral obligation to healthcare leadership, right? Like you are leading teams that are typically taking care of folks at some of their most vulnerable moments. And there's really a moral obligation that comes to that. And there's a lot of challenging circumstances that come to that. A lot of what we do is routine, but there's also a lot of what we do that's life and death. And I think that those situations can be very challenging. As a leader, my philosophy as a leader, particularly as a non-clinician, so I'm not clinical by background. I've got MBA, business background. That's my background. So my role when I come to work is to serve the team. Do you have the equipment? Do you have supplies? Do you have the staff? Do you have the methods? And most importantly, we're providing a safe environment. And that's where I focus at on a daily basis, is serving the team to make sure that they're equipped to be able to serve our patients. And I think that as you navigate through that and you start to understand that, really just understanding you're there to serve people, and that situations can be really challenging. So I would say, sometimes that have really shaped me, and just that I think about routinely. At one organization that I was at, we actually had a team member pass away on the job, a very unexpected death. It didn't see it coming. and understanding, you've got a lot of patients that you need to manage, and you have your team members' emotions that you need to manage, and you need to make sure that your team is well cared for. And also you have patients coming in that you have to care for too. And so there can be, a significant balance with that. But, I think to be a healthcare leader that's effective, you've got to really serve your team well and think about all aspects of it, the kind of tactical aspects of it, but also be cognizant of just some of the emotions that go into that work on a daily basis.
What change or impact do you want to have on our healthcare industry?
Sure. So what I like to do, where I get a lot of satisfaction, is growing, leaders and growing folks that can serve others. So I really like to mentor others. I really like to see leaders grow. And as I like to meet with people, I do like to understand what their overall self-awareness is. So I think as a leader, in order to be an effective leader, to be an emotionally intelligent leader, if you just have to have like a baseline of competency of understanding how your organization works, how healthcare works. And then there's the whole emotional intelligence aspect of it and the leadership skills with it. I like to just dig in to see how self-aware folks are. Do they really understand what they're good at? Do they understand what they can improve? Those different pieces. But the self-awareness piece is what I love to drill into. And just for folks to understand, this is who I am. This is what makes me who I am. This is how my journey has helped make me who I am. This is what I need to do to improve. If I've got a goal in mind, what are the gaps to get there and how do I close those gaps? And then seeing people grow throughout that process. And so for me, what I hope to do is to develop other leaders. I've heard it said before that you're not a leader until you've developed a leader that develops a leader. And when I've hit that point in my career, you spend so much time when you're early in your career focusing on yourself and focusing on your own skills and how do I grow and how do I develop. And there's a tipping point within your career where you understand that your success as a leader is a little bit less to do with what you're good at. It's more so the team that you surround yourself with and how good they are at that. And so I found a lot of satisfaction of helping grow others and then see them thrive and flourish in their careers. And really, if you're going to be a good steward of your organization, you should be doing that. You should be spending a lot of time growing others and growing people and just really having a talent pipeline set up is really, I think it's an obligation of a leader.
Can you tell me why IHEN and the ACHE is important to early careerists?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the mission of IHEN is to provide networking, career development, and education at the local level. And so when it comes to that, I think the networking piece is huge for early careerists. And I think there's two aspects of that. And this has been a lesson that I've learned over my career too. It's very easy to focus on vertical relationships. So I would consider those, people that you report to or their boss or people that report to you, right? So you think about kind of up and down the organizational chart. So it's very easy to focus on those vertical relationships and start to navigate and see, kind of opportunities or just learn from people. However, I also think it's very important to focus on horizontal relationships, folks that you would consider peers. And I think if I were to do it differently early in my career, I would have focused as much time and effort on the horizontal relationships as I did on the vertical relationships. I was very effective at building relationships with people I reported to and also people that reported to me. I would have probably could have done a better job of building the horizontal relationships. And the lessons I've learned from that is, as you grow throughout your career, those are going to be people that are either people that you lead, people that you need, or people that will be your leader. Just healthcare is such a relationship focused industry that I think the networking aspects can be great. Obviously, there's the career development and education that comes with it. I think the program committee has done a fantastic job of offering very relevant programs. And I think that's part of the mission as we try to offer the 12 face-to-face credit hours, which is the max that we're able to offer. that they're really relevant to what's going on in healthcare industry overall. So I think that that's important. And the career development pieces, we've got some upcoming series that will really kind of be tailored to some early careers. AZHE overall has great tips on resume, editing. They've got the Career Edge tool that kind of help map your career journey out. And again, that's kind of what I'm talking about, is kind of understanding where you want to go and then what gaps you need to close to get there. So I think that those are important. So again, it comes back to networking, career development, education, all conducted at the local level. And I think that as you're an early careerist looking at that, I think that those are important things. And, I would say too, there's an element of just patience and grind that happens when it comes to career development. It's not just, for most folks, it's not just a steady increase. It can be kind of jagged as you go throughout. And there's a great deal of just grit and resiliency and just kind of the never give up attitude that you have to have. I think for me, I played baseball growing up, and if you fail 7 out of 10 times in baseball, you're actually considered pretty good. If you fail 6 out of 10 times, you're actually considered really good. You're considered exceptional. And so I think understanding how to navigate failure, I think, is an important piece. And whether it's, failure at a grand scale or something that you feel like you just personally failed on or could have done a better job with, I think that's a really important skill. Particularly when you're dealing with direct patient care, having a preoccupancy with failure, I think is a cultural aspect that you have to push. You can look at metrics and they can look really strong, and you can get complacent sometimes when they're strong. And so as a leader, having that preoccupancy with failure and just kind of being obsessed with how can this thing break and how do we prevent it from breaking are really, really key pieces.
Great insight. Thank you, Chad, so much for all of the insight that you shared and the knowledge that you've been able to provide for us. We have about 10 minutes left today. So usually we reserve the last 10 minutes for questions for Chad.
And Sarah, do you mind if I jump in really quick?
No, go for it.
I had the pleasure of, I've known Chad for a couple of years now, and I had the pleasure earlier this year working shoulder to shoulder with him at the facility to implement a new technology. And one thing that I observed in just working alongside with Chad as a leader is that there's never any job too small, regardless of your title. And Chad, I know you didn't say that explicitly, but anybody who has worked with you will see that. Relationships, as you've said, are important. But as a great example, and Chad, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, we had lunch one day in the cafeteria, and as we were walking out, the trash can was full. And instead of shoving trash on top of it and trying to push it down further, Chad took the time to stop, unload that trash can, find where a new trash bag would be, and then ask his team member behind the counter, hey, where does this go? Instead of just letting that sit there. So I think it's a great example of leaders lead by example, and that no job, kind of going back to that grit and grind, no job is too small for you, regardless of your position. So Chad, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but I just want to give you a little humble brag there that, that really is what people look for in leadership.
Tyler, I appreciate you saying that. I'll slip you that 20 later for bringing that up. But no, I sincerely, I do appreciate that. I guess the only thing that I would add on that is, in our area, there are I don't know how to say this effectively. Every job matters in our area, right? And we don't have jobs within our organization that don't matter, and every team plays a part. And that is probably one of the things that I might find most fulfilling is we have such a cross section of society. We have so many diverse backgrounds, socioeconomically, ethnically, gender-wise, just upbringing in general. And what I loved about playing sports is everybody was focused on winning. Typically, everybody was focused on winning, and everybody brings their own unique skill sets and their own just what they can do to contribute to the team to win. And that's what I love about healthcare. It's the ultimate team sport. And I love interacting with our environmental services team that cleans because I consider them our infection prevention team. And if they don't do their jobs effectively, we have a dirty hospital, and that's a poor patient experience and increases the likelihood of infection. And so from our EVS team members, the folks that prepare our foods, the folks that keep our facilities running, all the way to our nurses and our physicians, our surgeons, everybody plays a part in that. And I think as a leader, the ability to interact with each different discipline and respect each different discipline is a vital skill to have. So Tyler, I appreciate you bringing that up. And honestly, it's what I find most fulfilling about my job. I try to round every day in the facility, and it's really where I find the most fulfillment is interacting with the team. You know, we're getting a lot of data, a lot of spreadsheets, and we can see kind of general direction of where we're going. And I also like to get out and about and see how it happens, you know, kind of reality face to face there. So thank you for bringing that up. It's very flattering for you to say that. And you got to love people, I think, to be an effective healthcare leader.
Agree. And I apologize for now eating in 3 minutes of the question time, but I do think it's just really important for everyone to hear in that career growth, right? Don't forget to stop and look around. My personal philosophy is I didn't get here without the help of many others, and I'm going to need help from a lot of other people to get where I want to go. So that means at every point in your career, you're never too big to stop, turn around, help the next person in line. And there is no such thing as too small of a job. It's, you know, the moment you get to that point where you're saying, not my job, ooh, you need to check yourself, you know, make sure that you're doing what you really passion. And just interacting with you, Chad, I can see that. And I just appreciate that. So I will stop talking because I know that the group probably has questions. I do see a question in the chat from Carla saying you mentioned that this is important to support your team members who you are also part of the community. What is your philosophy on bringing the community into your role or your healthcare organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, speaking on behalf of just kind of here locally within IU Health, we have our Patient Family Advisory Council. And so we have folks from the community that we engage to get their perspectives on and make sure that we're offering what we believe is excellent care and that they have an excellent experience. So we do have committees and councils that work with that. We also look at a community health needs assessment. Typically every 2 to 3 years, we look at a community health needs assessment and just kind of understand what the challenges are in the community. Working with local government officials, you know, here locally, working with Mayor Scott Fadness, understanding what his priorities are, where can we get resources to attack that. You know, that's really kind of how we bring the community into our role as a healthcare organization and really just try to help foster, make Indiana a healthier place. It's a good question, Carla. I appreciate you asking.
And you guys do fun things. Didn't you guys just have a watermelon carving competition?
Yeah, you know, we try to do some like team member engagement aspects with it. So our culture committee develops those things. You know, it's something that the executive leadership supports and allows the team to kind of come up with the ideas themselves of what they would do to kind of take their mind away from work a little bit, but also do some team building aspects. And the inpatient pharmacy had this, you know, baby watermelon that actually is pretty quality work there. So you can check it out on social media.
Feel free to come off mute to ask your questions if you have any.
Genevieve, I see you talking, but I don't hear you. Yeah, and it looked like you came off mute. You want to type it?
Yep,
You want to type
it
your
in the
question?
chat.
Yeah, we'll type it. Yep, all good there.
While she types,
while-
I'll just.
I was going to say, while Genevieve is typing away, I will say, just as a shameless plug, since I lead the early careerist group, if you have any suggestions or questions or recommendations about future social events, I'm always open to taking those and working with the steering team to see how we can operationalize that to support you guys. So please keep the ideas rolling in. We like to do this series so that you're familiar with who's on the board, who's on the steering team. Easier to put a face with a name while we're trying to figure out the new or the next normal for our social events. So your voice does matter. Please feel free to. And when we're done with the chat today, I will drop my email in here at the chat so you have a direct line of communication with our steering team.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Chad, this is so funny because I'm supposed to be like the IT person, and of course my audio doesn't work.
I wasn't going to say it.
You weren't going to say it. I'm just going to throw myself out there, Hey, so again, I could not unmute and say something. Absolutely love Chad as a leader. I will tell you, my first experience with Chad, got to work with him on the Cancer Center. It was when I first came into my current role at IU Health. And I remember Chad interviewed me. And one of the things he said to me, and I told him this several times, I think every time we chat is, you said, judge people on their intentions because you judge yourself on your intentions. And I probably butcher that, but that's what I got out of that is, you have intentions, you have good intentions, same as other folks. And I really took that with me, Chad. So again, I know we do chat a lot, but I just wanted to unmute and say that. My question to you, Chad, is, as a leader, sometimes you come across, difficult situations or just situations that are really complex. A lot of it's not like a cut and dry, this is the role that we should take. How do you manage that in your role?
Well, I appreciate the comments, and it's good to see you. And I'm so glad that we did hire you into that role. So I'll just put that out there too. I think you pose a very interesting question, and I've often heard that healthcare is the land of unintended consequences. No matter what decision you make, there's an unintended consequence out there. Some things you can see coming, some things you may struggle to see coming. Sometimes you're in a situation where it's the lesser of two evils, or sometimes it's a situation where both are great options and they're really difficult to look at. I think having a framework of values is something that you always have to put it through a lens of. Obviously, you can look at things from, a return on an investment perspective. And so there's some analytical things that you can do. And also, the values piece is really important with that. So as you're looking at a couple of different options, which aligns with your values more so than another, I think is important. And I think as a leader, explaining the why you made a decision, why you're going a certain direction, I think that that's really important. That people may not always buy into the what or the how initially, but if you can explain the why, you can get a little bit more buy-in with that. And even if they don't exactly agree with the why, you can still be honest about this is why we're doing this and this is the direction. And you may disagree a little bit with that, but I think that that's important. But, to kind of summarize again, I would say, really just kind of looking at it through a values lens and which one aligns with your values more so than another. And that's really kind of how I try to base some of those decisions. Is that helpful? Yeah, good question. What other questions are out there?
Well, Chad, we are at the top of our meeting time. We do have one more question that came in privately, if you have time, but I want to be respectful because
Sure.
we are. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of our team members had asked, if there is time, what advice do you have for taking the next step to becoming a manager for someone who doesn't have that management experience? Example would be somebody moving from a project manager to a people leader. What advice would you have?
Yeah, boy, that's a difficult transition. I would want to know why you want to manage people. I would start to just kind of ask some questions. What do you want to do to manage people, and how to navigate through that? what I would recommend, I think there's a networking element that comes with that, to where leaders that are in those hiring positions, if they know your ambitions, that I think that that's important. I think that there are often times where you can join a committee and demonstrate some leadership skills to do that. And I think most importantly, and I think we miss this a lot of times as early careerists, you got to do an excellent job with what you currently have, right? The organization has asked you to do something, and you need to steward that to the best of your ability. And so if you need to focus on that, make sure you're executing flawlessly with your current role. And then I think picking up other projects to where you can demonstrate your leadership skills, and taking on other, process improvement work, or just kind of a separate project, can be helpful in navigating through those things. I also think, that leaders are readers. And so reading through different types of leadership perspectives, podcasts, different things like that, just to kind of continue to drive your self-awareness and make yourself a little bit more emotionally intelligent, I think are important pieces. But, the networking piece, the volunteering for other kind of duties or tasks that can really demonstrate your leadership skills. And then most importantly, doing an excellent job with what you're currently doing. Because if you're not knocking it out of the park with what you're currently doing, I would be very cautious to ask for more.
All right. Chad, thanks for taking the time to do that and joining us today. Sarah, I want to give you kudos for stepping up and taking the reins on leading this. You did a great first time. We will be trying to rotate through our steering team for people leading these conversations coming up. We are actively working on our next one. And so again, thank you all for joining. Chad, thanks for your time today. And I hope everyone has a great week. We will be publishing our next series soon.
Great. Thank you. Have a good day.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.